everyone. In this good opportunity, we are from Group 3. We want to deliver our group assignment which talk about contraction in Chapter 3. First of all, let me introduce our group members. There are Muhammad Adnan, Savira Fitri Adiyatma, Dian Pramitha Utami, Rizky Dewi Angelita, and Gaea Putri Devina. So, let's jump to our discussion. Hello, my name is Rizky Dewi Angelita with student number 036. I'm going to give you a short definition about what is contraction. The term contraction is widely used descriptively in discussing grammar and is still used informally in most theoretical work for characteristic formal pattern of syntactic categories or features, usually associated with the meaning or function. Modern linguistic theories employ a range of formal devices to produce or characterize surface contraction. They may be rules or schemata or constraints. As such, contraction are an abstraction over the data which linguistic theory must analyze. Insight in syntax is achieved through discovering generalization across contractions. The term contraction is ubiquitous in contemporary syntactic literature, being used informally to refer to linguistic expression in a variety of ways. For the next, let me give you some examples. Contraction is widely used to characterize certain kind of verb meanings varying. To refer to example like those below. The first is words. The example is when we say field, it only consists of one stem. And on the other hand, when we add suffix at the end of the word, it will call fielded. Now, let me give you other example from other words. When we say educational, it consists of more than one suffix, built of educate, iron, and al. The second example is phrases or possessive contraction. Let's say there are three kinds of phrases. The first is our new college car. The second is the car of our new colleague. The third is a car of our new college. These three contractions are not equivalent in meaning. For instance, the last one is used only in situations in which the new colleague referred to has more than one car. These differences represent three different ways of expressing the concept of possession in English. And the last example is verb particle contraction. There are three kinds of patterns. The first is we picked up a lamb at the flea market. Second is we picked a lamb up at the flea market. And the third is what did you pick up at the flea market? Many linguists would be inclined to refer to all three sentences as manifesting a single verb particle contraction. And on the basis of the perceived similarity of the syntax of the three cases, and we can say the general consensus would be that these three sentences illustrate the verb particle contractions. So, we can conclude that as an approximation, it can be defined as a contraction is a characteristic formal pattern of syntactic categories or features, usually associated with some meaning or discourse function. Thank you, that's all from me, and for the next topic will be discussed with my...
Hello, my name is Savira Fitri Adiyatma, student number 018. Here, we focus on construction in clauses. Two ideas are central to our discussion. The first is recognize basic clauses or complex clauses and can work out the relationship between them. The second idea is that different construction exists created by the speakers and writers of given languages to enable them to signal what they are doing with particular utterance. We examine a number of different constructions in English and then consider the question of the relationship among them. Example 1a and 1b are related semantically in that they both have to do with a situation in a wealthy young man bought something, a piano, for another person, his secret fiancé. Both examples place that situation at some point in past and present. Major lexical items are wealthy, young, man, buy, piano, secret, and fiancé. In both examples, wealthy and young modify man and secret modifies fiancé. And buy has as its complements the wealthy young man referring to the buyer, that piano referring to the thing bought and his secret fiancé. Examples 2a-b-c are not directly related in meaning to 1ab, because 1ab specify all the participants in the buying event, the wealthy young man, the piano, and the secret fiancé. In 2a-b-c, one of the participants is unknown. It makes more sense to consider 2a as related in meaning to someone bought a piano for his secret fiancé, and 2b as related in meaning to the wealthy young man bought something for his secret fiancé. Example 3 takes sentences and clauses one at a time accompanied by many other clauses and sentences. To make the example more realistic, we should change it to he bought her that piano. One of the enduring habits of speakers is that they introduce a participant into a narrative by means of a full noun phrase containing a noun and possibly an article, an adjective, and so on, but thereafter refer to that participant by means of a pronoun. We might have a text as in for. Sentences are typically combined to create longer text is why many manuals of languages include a selection of different texts in addition to the details of the morphology and syntax of a given language. Utterance 1a is an example of a declarative clause. It is also an example of an active clause which contrasts with the corresponding passive clause in the example 5. The noun phrase referring to the passive participant, that piano in 5 is at the front of the clause and is in a special relationship with the verb. Second, although 5 does have a noun phrase, the wealthy young man, referring to the buyer, it can be omitted as in that piano was bought for his secret fiancé. The construction in 5 is called the long passive because it contains an agent noun phrase with its agent phrase, as in the above example, that piano was bought for his secret fiancé. This construction is known as the short passive. The final construction we can look as if at the 6th example. The clause in brackets provides a plausible context in the second clause. The speaker contrasts the two types of alcoholic drink, producing a normal neutral clause to pass judgment on the plum brandy and driving home the contrast by putting the direct object, the port, at the front of the second clause. The two phrases right next to each other also highlights the contrast. As far as the syntactic structure is concerned, I just love the portal is a neutral main clause, and the only change to the structure is that the phrase, the port, moved to the beginning of the clause.
Hello, my name is Gaea Putri Devina, student number 047, and I'll be explaining about types of constructions. So let's begin. Alright, so the different constructions are labeled, and the labeling reflects the connections among them. The constructions can be represented in the form of hierarchy. Okay, now I'll be explaining about copula. Copula is a major split between constructions that have the verb be and constructions that have an ordinary verb. And then there's declarative constructions, which means both copula and non-copula can have the structure used for making some statements. They can be active and passive. Then there's interrogative constructions. They can have the structure used for asking questions. They can also be active and passive. Okay, so interrogative constructions are split into two types. There are number one, yes and no interrogatives are used for asking questions, such as did he phone, to which the answer is either yes or no. And the second one is WH interrogatives are used for asking questions about participants in a situation. For example, who phoned? When did he phone? What did he say? Where was he when he phoned? And then there's the objects that can be seen here, which are oblique object. Verb can be followed by a noun phrase. So oblique object is a verb that can be followed by a noun phrase. And then there's the double object, which means verb can be followed by a prepositional phrase. In declarative constructions, the verb can be followed by a noun phrase and a prepositional phrase, as in bought the piano for Jane, or by two noun phrases in the sentence bought Jane the piano. The former construction is here labeled oblique object, and the latter is labeled double object. Interrogative constructions can be oblique object, as in the example, did Frank buy the piano for Jane? Or double object, as in the example of did Frank buy Jane the piano? In turn, the double object construction can be active or passive. Frank bought Jane the piano, and Jane was bought that piano by Frank. The oblique object construction too can be active or passive. In the sentences and examples of Frank bought the piano for Jane, and the piano was bought for Jane by Frank. There's another examples that I can give to you right here, which are, the first example is Frank bought the piano for Jane, which consists of non-copula, declarative construction, active, and oblique object. And then there's the second example, which is did Frank buy the piano for Jane, which contains non-copula, interrogative construction, yes or no, active, and oblique object. I think that is all that I can explain here, and the next part will be explained by my friend. Thank you so much.
Hello, good day. My name is Dian Pramitha Utami and my student number is 019. A few minutes ago, Gaea have explained about two types of major constructions, which are declarative constructions as the basic one, that it could be modified, and interrogative constructions as the result of the modification. So now I would like to explain about the relationship between constructions. There are two key concepts in the system of constructions relationship. The first one is each of the constructions shares certain properties with some of other constructions. The second key concept is the constructions are possible to be specified. These two concepts then lead us to three rules in relating constructions. The first one is the modification form construction must be derived from the basic constructions. For example, I have two sentences. The first one is Frank bought the piano for Jane, and the second one is Frank had been buying the piano for Jane. The first sentence is the example of basic construction, which is a declarative construction. And the second one, even though it is still a declarative construction, but it is a modified construction because it has a different form, or the verb is changing. The second rules is the relationships among constructions is paths from the basic constructions to the others, but not every other one. For example, I have three sentences. The first one is Frank bought the piano for Jane. The second one is did Frank buy the piano for Jane? And the third one is, what did Frank buy for Jane? So the correct order to written out the relation is from the first sentence to second sentence as in one relation, and then continue to connect the second sentence and the third sentence in the other relation. So we have two different construction in here. We have two different paths. We could not plainly connect from the first, second, and third construction in one relation. The third rules is we could find something in common in every constructions to relate them. For example, in the second and the third sentence that I have mentioned before, they have a same condition that both in the sentence we find the occurrence of word did before the subject Frank in the sentences. I think that is all I can say. The further explanation would be explained by my friends. Thank you.
My name is Adnan and my student number is 134. And now I would like to explain about copula construction. Copula is the Latin word for link or connection. And copula construction are divided into copula and non-copula. Then each of these divides into declarative, interrogative, and so on. Copula construction. The first example shown Fiona as the noun phrase and is with the right highlight as copula, and it links the subject noun phrase with another phrase. In the A example, the copula is links the subject noun with adjective phrase very happy, and happiness word can be identified as ascriptive copula, which used to ascribe a property to an entity. The second example, noun phrase, also shown Fiona as the noun phrase and is become the links between noun phrase with another noun phrase. The B example showed how two entities, noun phrase, Fiona, and best student appear as one person as Fiona equated to the best student. And the third example, copula locative, is self-explanatory, where Fiona as the noun phrase link with copula locative. As written in the example of termukti, clearly define where Fiona as the entity is located.